Where were you when the Tet Offensive began?
At Wei Fu Bai Airport, and we were perimeter security for the airport. And then Wei City broke out. We had to go up there on foot. I was without a platoon sergeant, 2 weeks in country, a boot lieutenant, second lieutenant. And so when I got up there, I found out the company commander of Bravo Company was killed by a sniper. We were then assigned different missions on a day-to-day basis. My first mission was to uh, capture this bridge so that uh, we could move troops across Way City. And that was my first firefight, if you will. And we received some sniper fire and mortar fire from the enemy, which by then had become very well entrenched in Way City. We had to get them and get them out. And the first thing we had to do was uh, open up all avenues of movement, and one of them was across the bridge. And so I lost several men. I was down to, I had lost about 10 men, and I was down to like maybe 18, 16, 18 men, plus radio, a man, and one corpsman.
And is this on your first, is this on your first day in the Battle of Wei? You lost about 10
Yeah.
men?
Yeah. So, and we accomplished our mission and secured the bridge. And then we began to get different missions. Way City in February was cold and rainy and drizzly, and we didn't have any good mess hall or anything like that. We ate sea rations, and everything was confusing because on the way up there, we would encounter the entire civilian population leaving Way City on foot, carrying whatever they could carry on their backs. But when we got there, everything was confused. And the general orders were if you saw anybody, they were the enemy, and you were entitled to shoot them or engage them. The 5th Marines a lot were in charge of securing the Citadel and the Perfume River and places like that. We had the outskirts of Way, and we had several different encounters with the enemy, which it turns out to be Chinese. The first KIA we had, enemy KIA, one of my men killed him, Lance Corporal Coleman. And we radioed to the company commander. We killed him, and what do you want to do with the body? And they said, wrap him in a poncho and bring him up here. So we did. It was in a trail about maybe 100 meters or so, relatively in the late evening when it was dark, because it was February, middle of winter, and got dark at 5 o'clock or so. So we hauled them up there, and the company commander, Captain Bob Black, who was the intelligence officer, he looked at the body and said, "Yeah, he's Chinese." And it was a big human being. It wasn't a little bitty tiny Vietnamese. It was, I would say, probably 5'10" or so, and a big, relatively big man, you know, so
compared to most Vietnamese, yeah.
that's when we knew that we were, they were coming, the Chinese were coming down the South China Sea and unloading right near Way City. If you look at a map, Way City is basically on the beach of South China Sea. So they were floating down, and they were when they hit the Way City area, they were well groomed, well manicured. Their weapons were clean. Their backpacks were full of food and everything. You could tell they had not come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Laos and Cambodia. They had come down other means. And
Were the Chinese and the NVA that you fought, were they mixed up, or were the Chinese fighting as a separate group and the NVA fighting separately, or were they fighting together?
they were pretty much separate, I think, or at least the Chinese we encountered. The NBA came down by means of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So they came in from the west, and the Chinese came in from the South China Sea from the east.
When you're out on the outskirts of Hue during the Battle of Hue, are you engaged in these firefights that just go on and on and on and on and on for hours, or did they tend to be the shorter, you'd have contact and then break contact within 20 minutes, 15 minutes? What was the nature of how would you characterize the fighting you experienced in
Uh,
the suburbs of Hue?
Ambushes primarily, and primarily at night. The enemy we were fighting, the Chinese, they would come down from the South China Sea and try to infiltrate Way City. So we would set up an ambush, let's say, on the one of the streams, or what you might call an irrigation ditch. But we set up the ambush at 3 or 4 in the morning and wait for them to come in. And then if we would encounter them, we would open up fire on them, and they would retreat, go away, and we would evacuate any wounded we had or something. And that was it. We might be over by 10 in the morning, and then I would go back to the company headquarters and report to the captain what we saw, and how the battle went and everything, or how the ambush went, and go back, clean our weapons and everything, maybe get some new sea rations or anything, and get ready for another ambush the next night. So most of the fighting, and just about all of the fighting I encountered, my platoon, would be at nighttime ambushes.
And you're saying that you're ambushing Chinese troops that are coming in?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah,
And when you're ambushing the Chinese, so far as you know, it's only Chinese. It's not NVA and Chinese mixed together.
that's correct. Now, I would qualify that by saying any snipers that we would encounter, perhaps during the daytime. And I did lose some men to a sniper in the daytime. We would go try to set up an ambush where we thought the sniper would be. And we did encounter, I remember one time we did encounter what I think would be a sniper. He got away, but that was basically our MO.
How old were you when all of this was happening?
24.
And how many men did you have under your command?
Well, Marine Platoon TO table of organization, I think, is like 46. 3 squads, supposed to be about 13 per squad, plus a radio man and everything. Uh, After the first encounter with the enemy, and when we captured that bridge, and I had lost some wounded men, thank goodness I didn't have any KIAs. Yeah, I think we were down to like 16, 18 men, plus a corpsman who got wounded in one of our ambushes and got medevac. A radio man who also got wounded in one of our ambush. Uh, so I was down to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, no platoon sergeant, 2 weeks in country. One of my last corporals came up to me after several different encounters with the enemy and ambush stuff. And he said, well, Lieutenant, you're only worth $2. And that completely, I said, what do you mean $2? They said, well, when you first get to country as a boot second lieutenant, we put a price on your head. And you had a price, $250 to any one of the troops that would see to it that you got wounded and evacuated because they didn't want to be left with a boot lieutenant giving them orders. But after the first couple of firefights, I guess I must have been okay because he came up to me and said, you're only worth $2, so it's not worth any of it. And I felt good after that. That maybe I had a chance to make it through Way City. One of the machine gunners that I had in Way City, I didn't even get to know them or anything. Was killed by a sniper in the daytime, and we shipped him back to Battalion 8 station in the body bag. And that was my first Marine that I saw get killed. But I didn't have any time or to think about that. You were so exhausted, so cold, miserable, confused, and you concentrate on your other men. You just had to kind of forget about that. That happened. Get on with your duties and think about it some other time. We end up having to shoot a lot of the dogs that were going around feeding on the dead bodies that were scattered throughout Way City. I passed the word to the troops, see any dogs, shoot them. I mean, so even now today, 50 years later, if I'm walking around Torrington, Wyoming, or I see some people out walking their dogs in the morning, it triggers memories of saying, boy, if you were in Way City 50 years ago, we'd have to shoot that dog because it would be eating the bodies, the dead bodies. Towards the end of the Way City campaign, when the citadel had been secured and everything, we had to assemble in there my platoon. I'd say 15, 18 guys, and wait to get Hill lifted out to the next ambush site which would be maybe, you know, several hundred meters away from the city. And it was raining that day. And we sit there and wait for helicopters and they didn't come and everything. Then about, noon or so, the word came down, we're not going that day because of the weather was bad and everything. The next day I talked to the company commander. He said, boy, we were lucky because while the helicopters were grounded because of the weather, one of the patrols had captured one of the enemy, and the enemy had set up an L-shaped ambush around the landing zone that we were to get lifted into, and it would have been total annihilation.
Where did you go after Way?
Uh, the company had to conduct on foot a search mission uh, up into the hills to the west of Way to see if we could find any NVA that had come down from Laos and Cambodia from the west. And we marched there, I think about 2 days up towards Jiolin, which is kind of inland a little bit. Didn't find any. We did not see any. So I was completely under the impression that we had repulsed them and repulsed them for good and clear out of the country.
Clearly, the US and South Vietnamese allies won the battle for Way, but it sounds like you were saying a minute ago that you felt like the NVA had been pushed out of the whole area and you felt like maybe even the war had been won at that point.
Yes, that's exactly what I felt. I felt that we were just mopping up the area, the entire country, as a matter of fact, because Way City Tet Offensive, but it was countrywide. Saigon, Pleiku, Central Highlands, everything was, we had repulsed them. We were secure. It was over. I thought maybe we might even go home. Little did I know, back in the United States, Walter Cronkite was telling everybody we lost. That was completely wrong. Total. But apparently that was the narrative in the media. And the media was telling people, no, we lost. And that wasn't true. We didn't lose. We won. We went to Jiolin, stayed there for like 2 or 3, 4 nights or so. Then we were hell lifted to, well, we then had to open Highway 9 from Da Nang to Khe Sanh because the NBA, of course, had many ambushes and had essentially controlled Highway 9 during the Tet Offensive. So Bravo Company got on trucks at Da Nang, and we were driven up to Khe Sanh to make sure that Highway 9 was open. And it was. And we got off May 31st. Got off right outside of Khe Sanh. Then we were hit a major ambush. And we lost a lot of men. We were on 6x trucks, big trucks. And we come up to a bend in the road, Uh, and we had not encountered any NBA. I don't think we even had helicopter coverage then, as I remember. All we had was just a convoy of trucks, and I would say maybe about 6 or 8 of them or so on the company. We stopped and got off the trucks, and very thick jungle on each side. And I got off the side of the road, and then we were ambushed by small arms fire, which is about all the NBA had at that time in that location. My platoon did not get hit as bad as others platoons in Bravo Company. I think the second platoon got hit pretty bad, and the third platoon. Mine suffered some, I had a couple of wounded men, no KIAs. We couldn't medevac them by helicopter. The only way to get them out was on trucks, and we piled dead Marines on the truck. My platoon assaulted this one little rise and repulsed the enemy off of that. Experienced some hand grenade fighting and stuff. That lasted several hours. Then we pulled back, and by then, company commander had called for air support. The only support we could get was propeller type aircraft flown by the South Vietnamese, and they strafed and bombed the hill that we had previously fought with hand grenades on, and they ran several sorties on that hill. In the meantime, other platoons were evacuating their wounded and putting the dead bodies on trucks. And they had lost some MIAs. It was total confusion. But that's what an ambush is. They strafed it, and then we went back on the little rise that they had strafed. No NBA. They had retreated completely, and that was that. So about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, we marched up to the base at Quezon and stayed there overnight. And then the next day, we got our orders to go to Hill 881. We had all the time wear flak jackets and helmets. That was, you just had to. And when I got back to Quezon, I laid down and I took my flak jacket off. And the radio man said, "Hey, Lieutenant, look at your back." And I couldn't see. But right above my kidneys was a perfect rectangular bruise. And it had been where an hand grenade, Chinese hand grenade, had exploded. I had a big, perfect rectangular where one of the Chinese pieces had pressed against the flak jacket. In Way City, right after I had put the machine gunner who was killed by a sniper, the next day when we were patrolling across a rice paddy, there was a pagoda right in the middle. So my radio man and I got next to that pagoda. And I felt something hit my helmet. I didn't pay any attention then. And so we finished the patrol across the rice paddy and everything. And um, we encountered a little bit of enemy. And so we had a little bit of a firefight. And then after that, we retreated back to the rice paddy and I reported in to Captain Black what the people we saw, the enemy and everything. And he pointed to my helmet. I took it off. A sniper's round hit
Wow.
through my helmet. Things happen like that where you have no idea why, not because you were brave or skillful or anything like that. It just wasn't your turn. In July, we were told, 1st of July, we're getting off this hill forever. And the hill was kind of funny, overlooked Quezon. And one day, the entire ammo dump blew up, Quezon. I mean, it really blew up. And I got on the phone and I said, hey, Bravo 6 is Bravo 1. 6 is the company commander. I was Bravo 1. I says, the Goose just hit Quezon ammo dump. He came back. He says, no, we blew it. They're leaving Quezon. And I thought, well, maybe we're giving it back to the South Vietnamese, the ARVN troops.
Mhm.
But why were we blowing the dump? I mean, this huge dump. I mean, he said, no, we're leaving Quezon or we're leaving Hill 881. And I thought, this does not fit with what my perception of how we had won the war. I had thought we won Way City. We encountered no NVA in all of our patrols from Geolin to Way City to Quezon. Yes, we were ambushed at May 31st, but when we chased them, we didn't find them. They must have went back into Laos, Cambodia. The artillery had stopped bombarding Quezon. And now you're telling me that we're going to leave and forever? You know, it didn't register. And so it was, so we were, I think, July 2nd, we were due to be hill lifted off of 881 to go to Contient.
Hmm.
So no helicopters showed up. We were told to cave in all the bunkers, fill in all the trenches, make it so nobody could ever occupy this hill again. That's it. So no helicopters. That night, we slept literally under the stars, no cover, no bunkers, no sandbags, no nothing.
Mhm.
And next day, no helicopters. Next day, no helicopters. And we could see fighting taking place on some of the other hills around us. But we were nice and quiet, you know, waiting for and we had all our backpacks packed and machine gun ammo and everything. And so that day, 6th, Mahoney came up to me and said, Lieutenant, do you want to see a picture of my girlfriend? I said, yeah, sure. So he showed me a little wallet-sized picture. Very beautiful young lady. Tom was from Northern California, the Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. And I said, oh, very nice, you know. He said, oh, thanks. Well, I didn't know it, but at that time, his girlfriend from when he was in high school, all through high school, had, uh, she was from a wealthy family. Tom Mahoney was from a single mother family, relatively, I don't say poor, but not in the upper class. And his girlfriend's father said, you don't want to have anything to do with Tom Mahoney anymore. He's Marines, they're over there killing babies. You're a nice debutante. I'm going to send you back east to Rhode Island, I think, someplace. Some girls finishing school. Well, in the meantime, back east, she got uh, caught up in this anti-war movement.
Hmm.
And she wrote Tom a Dear John letter. Said, that's it. I don't want to have anything to do with you. We're not going to get married. When you return, I don't ever want to see you again. I didn't know that then. So when Tom showed me his picture and I said, yes, he went outside the wire to grieve because he didn't want apparently anybody to see him in tears because you don't do that if you're a Marine.
Hmm.
Well, he told the guard on duty, I had posted guards on the perimeter. I'm going outside to go to the bathroom because we had caved in all of the trenches and everything, didn't have any place to go to the bathroom. So it seemed reasonable. No sooner had he gone outside the wire, maybe 20 meters, he was killed. Shots rang out. And immediately his squad leader, Ken Fernandez, came and got me in a bomb crater at the other end of this hill. Said, Lieutenant, Mahoney went outside the wire, was killed. I immediately got up instantly and ran to the other side of the hill. When I got up and when I began running to the other side of the hill, a mortar round dropped in the bomb crater that I was in and landed on top of the sandbag that I was sitting on. That particular mortar round wounded, I think it might have killed a couple Marines, but it wounded like 13 of them. We came under mortar fire, so I immediately gave the orders to the men, gather up everything you possibly can, start medevacing the wounded to the other side of 881 South. And I said, immediately check the bunkers or check all around the hill to make absolutely sure that Mahoney isn't somewhere else. He says, no, we saw the guard that was on duty saw him go down the path and heard the shots and everything. So I said, call for volunteers we're going to go down and get the body. I'll go with you. So the first volunteer, two volunteers, Bruce Bird, my M79 grenade launcher from the weapons platoon, and a guy by the name of DeLucy, I think Lance Corporal DeLucy. And I said, go down and tie some radio wire around your ankles in case you'll go on your belly down this path. Tie some radio wire around your ankles if you get wounded, we have a way to drag you back. And I said, Bruce Bird would go down, he'd be the first one. Uh, to I'd be second, to Lucy would be behind me, and we'll go from there. So we did. And I called back to Captain Black and I told him, I says, one of my Marines went out. We think the NBA killed him. We heard shots. We're going to go down and get him. So we started crawling down this path. Shots rang out. That's when Bruce Bird got hit in the shoulder. A grenade come flying up, one of those Chinese grenades. Bruce Bird got hit with shrapnel from it. The Lucy behind me got hit. For some reason, I didn't get hit with any of the grenade. So we pulled back, tried to medevac those two. We called for two more. I got two more volunteers. And by then, I told them, anybody who's got any grenades, come to the gate, we might need them. So we crawled down again. And this time, Bruce Bird saw the body when he went down there and saw that there was blood all over, and was pretty sure he was dead. So we tried to, again, shots rang out. We couldn't get down to the body. So we came back. By then, Captain Black had left his position up here, came down to where we were, and we told him the situation, medevac. In the meantime, the rest of the Marines were gathering up any kind of grenades they could, and we started throwing grenades down there, essentially to ring the entire area with shrapnel M26 grenades. Then Captain Black said, we can't get any helicopter. This is all I need is one Huey to fly above and tell me if there's any NVA around the body, and we'll go down and get it. We can't get any helicopters at all. I said, what can you get? He said, we think we can get one fixed aircraft out of Da Nang. And I'm calling him right now, and I think he's on the way. All he could get was napalm. I said, you gotta be kidding. Napalm will just, that's not a precision instrument. I mean, it's kind of scattered. He said, that's all we can get. I said, all right, we'll take it. So then we saw an aircraft on station above us. He said, you have any smoke grenades? I said, yeah, we got a couple. So he's throw smoke grenades where the body is. So we red smoke grenade. We threw it, and it was only like 30 meters away or something like that from where we were. And so the aircraft came, dumped the napalm, and immediately blew up. Intense heat, like you can't. Napalm is diesel fuel in gel form, and it's just incredibly hot. So I told Captain, can we go down and get him now? He says, no, I just got a message, emergency message from the colonel. He's on another hill. He got overrun by NBA. We got to go to that other hill. We can't go to Contien. We got to go to Hill 689 right now. So we did. We repulsed the enemy off of that hill. they had lost quite a few Marines where they could not recover the body. And I said, and I thought, well, we left a Marine behind too. And that's something you never do, ever. And so, but they had lost several Marines to NBA. We repulsed them and stayed there the night, slept literally under the stars. Stayed there for like a day and a half. The enemy disappeared. They had made their strike and they had caused casualties. And then we were hill lifted to Contien, the Hill of Angels at the DMZ. We were there about 2 days and I got a call over the net from Captain Black that Force Recon had gone up to Hill 881 and had recovered the body of Tom Mahoney.